morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspective. And as usual, we have a different perspective this morning, and we certainly have a personality. And we're going to get to that gentleman immediately after I hold forth here for the next 20 or so minutes on kudos and so forth. So
have a day.
Can't we always try to start this program with a kudo or two, somebody in the community or an organization and so forth. And it just seems, Judy, it might be appropriate to throw a grenade full of kudos to all the folks out there, to the Oasis, who put on Oktoberfest last weekend. Yeah. Very, very nicely done. So I understood they had a nice crowd. So, and that takes a lot of work. A lot of folks had to do a lot of different things.
And the Humane Society kind of piggybacked on that Oktoberfest too, and they had they had a beer tent, and they had some tents out there, and they were
and it got a little cold, unfortunately, for people to be outside around on the patio, so to speak.
I guess it depends on how bad you want a beer.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Ken.
did they have brats? And I heard that they some live music going on, so it looked like it was pretty crowded.
Yeah, well, I was very pleased for them.
And it's a great place, you know, because there's all that parking. You know, downtown, they didn't have a whole lot of parking space.
Well, that was a terrible fire, but in the case of the Oasis, after it was all said and done, everything all settled out, it became a fortuitous fire because the Oasis has such a much better facility now. But those folks every one of them that lent a big hand, so kudos to them. Kent, Judy and I are pretty heavy on what the Humane Society is doing here in our community, and they kind of, as you said a minute ago, we kind of tagged along and have a little ancillary fundraiser for them, so kudos to them. Why don't we get serious and let you introduce our guest officially this morning?
Yes. Kent Froebe is the superintendent of Lincoln Elementary School District 27, where all my kids and all my grandkids went to school, and I dare say it was quite a success.
Well,
they did well.
Well, we think pretty highly of the district as well. And obviously, you wanted a ratings decline by asking me to be on here, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me.
Piffle. We're awfully glad you could come. There are several things that we should talk about. Maybe we could start with the remodeling over at...
we do have a couple construction projects going on
at
Northwest. Northwest, we have 3 phases of work going on there, and the first phase was a couple summers ago. We started with geothermal. We wanted to air condition all of our facilities, so we went ahead and we put geothermal air conditioning in. We put on a new roof. Currently, as you go by, you can see that we have some additions going out the south of the facility as well as the north, and so the new entrance, which is the south of the building, we're pretty excited about. That's going to be a new kindergarten wing, new office space, a new computer lab, a new library facility, space, and then out the back of the building, or the north end of Northwest, will actually be a new cafeteria and a new kitchen. And we just felt like it was important at both Northwest and Washington Monroe to get the kids out from eating in the gymnasium, and so that was kind of a suggestion that was brought on a few years ago, and it's important because a lot of time is taken away from the gym by setting up for lunch, eating lunch, and then the cleanup, and that way it took away from recess time, it took away from physical education, which is a requirement daily for our students, and so it really was kind of a scheduling nightmare for our administrators and for our teachers, and so we felt it was important to make sure that we opened up the gymnasiums and have the students eating in a cafeteria.
Old timers say, now in my time. Now in my time, we solved the lunch problem and the physical education all in one fell swoop. We went home.
Oh, you?
We all went home for lunch. So that accomplished lunch, and it also accomplished a little exercise back and forth.
But when did you graduate from? Didn't you went to District 27, correct?
Yeah,
An honored alumni. Was it 37?
37.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So times have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, a lot.
I noted that.
Even since our respective kids went to District 27, the whole ideas of education have changed. I think there might be a little more government intervention than there used to be.
A number of mandates, right?
Yes.
Sometimes unfunded, but
most of the time.
Right? Yeah, that is correct.
Well, the state's broke. Did you
Seems
hear?
Like Big Brother knows best. He's going to tell you how to run your schools when it ought to be at the state level, and the federal government had no business in telling us what to do with our local schools. That's a biased opinion.
How do you keep up with all these dictates?
Well, we do our best, and that's why financially sometimes with the unfunded mandates it can be difficult. Obviously, with the state of the current state financially, it has been challenging. The uncertainty is frustrating at times. And I'm sure at some point we'll get into the closing of Jefferson, but that kind of went into play when the board was looking at what was best for the district, and being fiscally responsible. The decision was made that it was time to maybe close a facility, and so we will be closing Jefferson at the end of this school year. But
that'll come as a surprise to many.
And I think it's I think many are aware, but we're starting to go public to let people know that the time it's kind of run its course. Those neighborhood schools with Adams and Jefferson and Abe Lincoln, they were constructed back in 1966. Abe Lincoln School, as you know, is now Little Lamb's Daycare.
Yes, my little great-grandson goes there. It's very nice.
It actually closed in 1977, so it was only open 11 years before they decided for financial cuts. And Jefferson, it's in a situation now where it's only used to its capacity about half. We have about 50 students there. Only 20 of them live in the boundaries of Jefferson, and so the idea of neighborhood schools at the time, back in the 60s, was a good concept, but it's just it's come time to fiscally make the right decision, and that's to close it, and we're able to add on to Northwest and Washington Monroe thanks to the 1-cent sales tax, which was passed in April of 2011.
Now, that will take care of the problem of moving these students.
Correct.
From Jefferson.
Right, and so when we looked at closing Jefferson, we thought, and the 1-cent sales tax can only be used for maintenance and construction purposes only. Right. So that money coming in has a sole purpose of, construction, and so we thought, why don't we earmark that money to add on to Northwest, to do some updates and get air conditioning in Washington Monroe, and so that money was earmarked for construction, and we'll be able to save money for the district by closing Jefferson. And back to your point, many of the students, well, about 30 this year, are more or less just overflow students that should be going to Northwest or should be going to Central, and we've asked them, since class sizes are somewhat full, to go ahead and go to Jefferson. And we think that by adding on at Northwest, that'll kind of eliminate some of that stress and headache for parents of finding out that, hey, we moved across the street from Northwest, but we're being asked to go to Jefferson now. And so we're adding a kindergarten wing on. So we'll have 2 kindergarten classes at Northwest. We'll have 2 first-grade classes. We'll have 2 second-grade classes, which currently there's only 1. So
will that absorb then the employees who were currently at Jefferson?
Correct. Yes. The teachers will transfer from Jefferson over to Northwest.
I'm sure that some of the teachers, when they heard about the closing of Jefferson, thought, "Oh my gosh, now what?"
Right. Yeah. Well, and Jefferson and Adams both are nice, comfortable little buildings, and I think that there's a comfort zone there, and so the key now is Mr. Allen, the principal at Northwest and Jefferson, is doing a nice job of transitioning, getting that transition transitional period in play to where, make it as smooth as possible for coming from Jefferson to Northwest.
The Northwest project is really quite extensive. Mr. Froebe was at Rotary here 3 weeks ago and gave a nice presentation with the slides and showing the format of what the new school is going to be. That was very impressive. That'll take us down the road a ways.
Yes, we're very excited. I mean, District 27, pretty much when Washington, Monroe, and Northwest are done, Phase 3 of the project is new flooring throughout those buildings, and that should be taking place this upcoming summer. Those will be like brand new facilities, and so we'll have Northwest, Washington, Monroe, pretty much brand new facilities, along with the junior high, which was only about 10 years old, and Central, which is a newer facility as well. We feel that our facilities in District 27, school building wise, are top notch.
Well, and that's important. That's important. And your staff.
Oh, excellent staff.
Yeah, you're lucky to have a really top to bottom, and I make that inclusive,
yes.
Top to bottom. We are lucky in District 27 to have the personnel aboard that we do. We've got some very, very dedicated teachers. Case in point, a teacher that was taking care of teaching my great-granddaughter in her early years there at Northwest. I saw her at some function not too long ago, and she asked about a great-granddaughter who's been out of there several years now. But that shows that they have individual attention to these kids, and they're aware of who their students are.
Without question, from a strong administrative team that I have the pleasure of working with all the way down, the teachers are phenomenal. And case in point, this summer with Northwest and Washington Monroe, we were down to the wire with opening schools at Northwest and Washington Monroe, opening the school doors, and every teacher was in helping, cleaning their room, getting it ready to embrace kids on that first day of school. And we're very fortunate, and that goes for the teachers at Central and the junior high and Adams and Jefferson and all the buildings. When I pop into classrooms, there's good things happening without question.
Now Adams will still be.
Adams will stay. Yeah, Adams will stay. And I don't foresee it closing anytime in the near future.
Those kids aren't as close to the other schools as the kids from Jefferson would be.
We still have the numbers out in the Adams neighborhood. And we have our pre-K program out there, and so there's definitely a need for the Adams facility. Those students typically transfer into Central. They go kindergarten, first and second, go into Central. Some of them go into Washington Monroe, but there's definitely still a need for the Adams facility.
But you're still in a position to not have to do any busing because you're still within the margins that the state offers for that.
Let me as a superintendent, working in a district without busing, very, very thankful for that.
I'm sure that's the case.
As you know, transportation is constantly being cut by the state. The funding for transportation, the headaches of the busing. We're very fortunate to not have to deal with busing, and no, at this time, we don't have any problems with the students at Adams. They all live out in that neighborhood for the most part, or their parents,
We had a satellite school out in Oglesby Avenue one time way back in the 30s.
On Oglesby?
That's right. Tyler School, one-room school.
What was the name of it?
Tyler.
Mm-hmm. That brings about what you have at the administration building, your little display of historic things from District 27 throughout the years. Now, see, that's something
we started.
A secret.
Yeah, we started a District 27 little museum with artifacts. I really need to give kudos to Keith and Charlize Leisman and Stephen and Susan Rohr. They really stepped up and helped out with that project. and it's finished and looks good. And actually, we're seeking anyone in the community that might have something District 27 wise, in a box in the basement. If they're interested in donating it back to the district, we'd love to display it or have it at the district office there for our museum. So we have a lot of neat things with the old Jefferson Bell to the first graduation commencement flyer. I mean, we have a lot of things there that are a program, and we have a lot of things on display that.
Well, you picked the right couples for your committee there to get things organized.
They've done an excellent job.
Some real goers.
Right.
And speaking of the right couples, we have couples plural. That would be many.
Okay.
Sponsors, and we need to pay a little attention to them right now. So we'll take a break. Our guest this morning is Mr. Kent Froebe, the Superintendent of District 27, doing a whale of a job for us. He had a great school board. So let's take a couple of seconds here, Mr. Ash. Right back live in the studio here, WLCN 96.3 on your FM dial. 648-5510. Somebody might have a question of our guest this morning, Mr. Kent Froebe. Kent steps in to a history, in my biased opinion, some very good superintendents in District 27. I go back a long way, as everybody else knows. And I've known him from D.F. Nichols and E.H. Lukenbill's time. Now, those are two names off the charts that you never heard of.
Oh, yes, I have.
So D.F. Nichols, he was the first superintendent, correct?
That's correct.
District 27?
Yeah, right, yes. That would be in the 30s and maybe even in the 20s, but in any event. Kent, we appreciate you. You've got a busy schedule, and we appreciate you taking your time. And we want to be sure and cover anything that you would like to bring out and bring to the attention of our listeners this morning. So we'll tip the baton in your direction right now, sir.
Yeah, let's start with this lunch program.
Have you heard about that?
No, sir, I have not, Mr. Froebe.
Well, we started this year with a community eligibility program, which is a federal program, and so we've received federal dollars. We're pretty excited. We applied for it this past year, and every student in District 27 eats breakfast and lunch for free. And so we're reimbursed through the federal government for that, for each student that eats. It's been an excellent program. We've seen a spike in our breakfast eaters. We have, on average, about roughly 125 new eaters or breakfasts served this year as compared to last year. So
is that right?
Yeah, it's been an excellent program for us.
And you struck upon something that not many of us think about. Maybe none of us think about it. In today's socioeconomic times, we have youngsters going to school hungry. Some, maybe not many, but some. And this steps in and fills a real need. In our more innocent times, I think everybody came to school with something to eat. Maybe not so today. Comment on that, sir?
Well, exactly. I just think that we're really trying to promote that, and I know that our food service director, Connie Crawley, has done an excellent job of trying to provide incentives to draw as many kids in to eat breakfast as possible. As research states that it's one of the most important meals of the day, and so we want to make sure that our kids are going through the school day, without their bellies being growling, and we want to make sure that they get a good breakfast. But then also we're trying to provide better lunches that meet the guidelines, but yet the kids want to eat. And so we've started this year with serving pizza, meeting the requirements of the whole grain crust and everything. But we've been serving stuffed Tortilla pizza this year, which obviously has been a hit.
That whole business has been a controversy for a long time, insofar as the guidelines for school lunches were such that a lot of it went in the garbage can. The kids are not going to eat the weeds and seeds.
Well, Well, and that's what, especially over the last couple years, the guidelines have really changed, and so it's a challenge to try to find what are things that meet these healthy requirements and are good for kids, but that the kids will eat and not just throw away. And so that's been the challenge of Mrs. Crawley, to try to figure that out, and she's done a nice job.
You know, there must be some guidelines for District 27 having been able to get this subsidy to serve breakfast and lunch free to all comers. Does the community fall within such a low income level that we qualified, or how did this work?
Yeah, District 27 met the requirements that were serving the number of free and reduced lunch students to begin with, yes. So then we met the requirements and the guidelines. We were able to apply for it, and we were chosen as one of the districts to receive this for the next 4 years.
You know, our church, First Presbyterian, without...
That's $5 for a commercial.
Yeah, right. Without any knowledge of the names of the students involved, have for a few years packed a little like lunch sack, as it were, for 2 of the schools for the kids that qualified at the time for the free breakfast and lunch programs, and then they would take that home for the weekend. It was things that they could either nuke or nutritious things that they could just
And Judy, that
eat.
brings up a great point. Being a district, and if you ever drive through downtown Lincoln, we're just surrounded by churches, and without wanting to not name one of them or forget one of the names, we have a number of churches who really step up and help us out, including the Presbyterian Church, and whether it be providing food, mentoring to kids, shoes, coats. Yes, I mean, we're very fortunate that the churches in Lincoln step up to help our kids.
Showing a we care attitude that we have here.
Without question.
The numbers involved in this little lunch sack program. I wish Karen Sams Davis were listening and would call and tell me what they are, but they have increased exponentially in just this year with the kids who were put on the list as needing this lunch bag for them.
Well, and I think as the program, you know, was kind of in the founding stages a year or so ago, I think that as word spread of what a great program it is, more and more students and families and the teachers are recognizing, you know, let's take advantage of this and make sure that, you know, we send something home with the kids and provide a meal for them. And you're right, it has grown, and that's just because it's been such a great program, and we thank those involved without question.
I suspect that you, as an administrator, and our teachers down in the trenches experience problems which we didn't have way back then, in that we have more single-parent children in our school system than was the case many years back. And I suspect that has a definitive impact.
Well, I think that we do have a number of single parent, and we also have a number of grandparents who step in to try to help out with raising their children, and they're doing the best that they can, and you know, a lot of times they're in to, you know, meet with administrators and teachers and wanting to help out and do the best they can for their child. But like you said, it can be very difficult as a single parent, and we do see that.
Well, we were always taught that, and most of us, and my contemporaries and so forth, don't get in trouble at school because you're in twice as much trouble at home. And I don't think that probably is extended as it was back in the Conestoga wagon days. There was just more parental more parental concern and interest. Not that we have bad parents out there. I wouldn't begin to talk about that. But it's a socioeconomic thing that the parents, some of them are single, are just busting their buns to try to keep their head above water financially. And they just kind of get overwhelmed, and therefore some things that ought to have attention don't get attention.
Right. We do see that a little bit with the parents that are trying to do their best, for their families and for their kids, but we do have a number of parents who are very active and volunteer to the schools, and we're always looking for more volunteers and parents to help out, but for the most part, we have a number of parents who are still very involved with the district and with their schools.
Speaking of the difference between the olden days and today, are there such a thing as room mothers anymore? Can you have a Christmas party or an Easter party?
We do have. You still can be involved with your kids' classroom, and we encourage that. Times have changed. I mean, there's a volunteer packet now that you must fill out and get background checks and that sort of thing, but we still try to get as many parents and families involved and helping out in the classrooms and on field trips as possible. So, how's
the field trip business working with funds being more scarce than they were at one time?
Unfortunately, we try to have as many educational field trips as possible. Some of that cost has been shifted to the schools, though, and so PTOs are helping raise money to send classes on field trips. The principals do a nice job of trying to raise money to pay for these field trips because, like you said, money is tight at this time in many districts, and ours is no different. And so that is one cost shift that's unfortunately taken place, where we see the schools now are often funding the field trips.
But they're important. Those kids get to see something that some of them might otherwise not have ever encountered.
Correct, and that's why the administrative team sits down and at the beginning of the year and kind of reviews which field trips the district still covers. A few field trips that we feel are absolutely must, that we need to send our children to, and then it's up to the administrators, and they do an excellent job of making sure that every class, every grade level still gets an opportunity to go on one of those field trips that you're talking about that are beneficial to get those students. Some students might not get out of Lincoln unless we give them those opportunities to leave or those experiences.
But even within the community, I worked at the hospital for a long time, and we used to have the second graders from all the schools come once a year and
watch a surgical procedure.
Or perform brain surgery if they were up for it. But at any rate, that mattered, because you never know when a kid's going to fall off the jungle gym and break their arm and come into the hospital absolutely scared to death. And this way, they learn.
Kind of put their mind at ease a little bit.
Yes, they see that the people are there to help them. They see that the facility is there for them to make things better and to make them not hurt. So things like that are important for little people if they're like the ones I raised.
We still do, right? We still do a number of in-town. We just had third graders. I don't know if you saw the Courier or the Daily News. We just had third graders at the fire department to give them tours of the fire department, and so there still are things that they're doing. The hospital one, I'll have to look into that, though. That's a good idea.
Oh, it's there. You come.
Right.
Build it, they will come.
Exactly.
You have a 7 well-paid. The salary is really munificent. Board members with whom to work.
Yeah.
These are people who give of their own time and their own talents, and it's a dedication. And you have a good school board, and that's
excellent
important.
Excellent school board, and from serving, weren't you past president of the District 27?
For several years,
right? That the pay is not much.
As a matter of fact, I never did see a check. Well, all the years I was on the board.
But the time that board members put in, and the board that I currently have, I couldn't ask for a better situation. And they're there for the right reasons. They care about the district. They care about the kids. And
well, you mentioned the operative words. They're there for the right reason.
Right.
They haven't sought to serve our district because they had an agenda.
Correct.
And that's not always the case in some boards. So
that's not always.
We're lucky here.
Yes, we're
and
very
down
fortunate.
through the years, I don't know of anybody who's ever served on our school board, a long time I go back, that had an agenda per se that they wanted to something accomplished. They were there because they wanted to serve, because they had kids in school, or if they didn't, just because they had a sincere interest in the educational system.
Further on board membership, when they have an election for these people who are on the school board, 4 community servants come and vote. And it's you're just darn lucky you've got a good board, because the people don't show up to vote for the best person.
The voter turnout has been
Pitiful.
pretty low. Yeah, it's been pretty low since since I've been involved with keeping track of it.
Since they invented elections in schools, I think. I mean, it goes back. People just don't go and vote for that.
Well,
and
maybe
it's
we ought to issue checks for old Joes as they come out of the ballot, and then maybe we might
maybe gift certificates.
Give them a gift certificate to go to the alley by.
Those people are going to run bills in my nursing home we're going to be in here before too long. And that's important.
I'm trying to bypass that subject. I wish you would.
I'd like to too, but c'est la vie.
I'm sure that every day you go through the door into your office, you never know exactly what's going to happen. You have your day planned and all that, and you've worked with it, but you're going to get some surprises. Have you had anything really unusual that is well,
don't jinx me. Here, but, I've been very fortunate to have a situation over a year and starting my second year that I haven't had any major surprises. No. Obviously your heart breaks when you hear about the violence that takes place in Oregon or some of these other school facilities or school districts or the community college, and you just pray that you're doing everything that you can to provide a safe learning environment. Like you mentioned earlier, times have changed. I mean, now you have to buzz into the school and you enter through the office of all of our facilities, where even when I was going to elementary school, it was nothing for the teacher to prop open the door and let some fresh air in the classroom.
Right.
And so it just is it's a different time we live in, and making sure that the students are safe is a top priority, and I feel like we do an excellent job of that. We have the Logan County EMA, and Dan Fulcher does a nice job of providing safe school summits and keeping us in Logan County abreast of new updated things that will help with school facility safety, and so we're very fortunate to have them.
In the way back when he and I were in school, the big thing was if they dropped a bomb, and they would come to school and teach us how to get under our desk and cover our head, and that was the big worry, if you will. And
you actually had drills for that?
Oh, yes, we did. Don't you remember that, Bill?
That was past my time, dear. I was, if you recall, I'm way before you.
Well, it's true. When I say anybody who's 76,
they
call in and validate
when I was in school.
In real life, we did.
That is fact, Kent. They did. They had drills for these young children all over the country.
Yeah.
You'd like to think that
it wasn't just Minneapolis. It was the rest of the world too, probably here. But now there's this terrible, awful worry, and I don't see what the answer is to preventing this. You've done all you can with putting
without
locks
getting
on
into
the
politics
doors.
of it. Yeah, it's all we can do is do our best to make it difficult to enter the building and just provide whether it be drills or just keeping the teachers abreast of how to handle situations. That's really the extent. And I feel like
you'd like to think that you wouldn't want to clutter up the teachers' minds with worrying about things. They've got a job to do, and that's educate their children to the best of their ability. And we do have some outstanding teachers too. But have these ancillary things come up like, well, what if we have some nut come through here? The real world says as much as we are sit here in our good little enclave here in Abesville, is what I call our area. That would never happen. But
well, Bill, not that a fire drill isn't important. They are, and we practice those, and tornado drills we go. But over the last few years, active shooter drills have become very important parts of the school year to make sure that we know how to handle a shooting situation like that and a relocation situation when you relocate to another facility. So. It's unfortunate, but it is the times that we live in, and we've got to and we've just got to make sure that we're providing safety for our students and our staffs.
Well, that's got to be a big concern of you and your administrative team and your board.
Judy mentioned something that alluded to playground equipment outside. Yeah, in our innocent days, we had what we called the giant stride and all those things. Why? People are going to get hurt on those today. You can't use them. Do you have any dictates that are laid down as to what equipment you can put on the playgrounds? Are you? Well,
there's certain requirements, and and we obviously look at what would be safest. But you've got to have a certain bedding around the playground equipment, whether it be the rubber tires or the
Now there was a new study about some of these.
For us.
Was it
ground covers aren't good? Yeah.
Concrete.
Right. Yeah.
So that when you fell on your head, you
had a lot of skin knees. There's no question about that. But we're about ready to wrap up here.
Do you mind if I mention two other quick things?
That's what I want to pass the baton to you, sir.
We have coming up in February every year. We have the John Welsh Memorial Tournament, which is a big deal for a fundraiser for the Lincoln Junior High. It's also it's excellent, I think, for the community as well. Last year we had 147 teams come to Lincoln. The hotels are filled. The restaurants are filled. It's a fun weekend of basketball, and like I said, it is a fundraiser for athletics at the junior high, as well as helping pay for field trips, like Judy had mentioned earlier. We also have the alumni dinner, April 23rd, which, you've been a part of that as well.
Nice thing.
You're
That's a very nice thing.
Yeah.
Right, and it's a fun night. We recognize some wonderful people. It's catered by Gazzardo's, which I've never been to an event catered by Gazzardo's that I didn't walk away
exactly
saying wow.
Good. Yeah, exactly. And so those are two events coming up this year that we look forward to. So
I think that's such a nice thing, that recognizing graduates of District 27 that have made a contribution to the school and to the community. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and we have a number of a number of great people who have graduated from District 27, gone on to the high school, and then go out and do wonderful things. And so we want to recognize those students that kind of got their start in District 27. And like I said, it's a neat event and a fun evening. I always look forward to it.
It's a good public relations tool in our community too, Mr. Froebe, to have the recognition that some of these folks get. Many of them have been around a little while, and so it's a feel-good thing for them too.
Right, without question. And they usually select there's a committee that usually selects about 3 or 4 distinguished graduates that receive the big recognition. But then we also have honored graduates that receive certificates, and we recognize as well throughout the evening. And so it's a fun event, and we'd like to see as many people attend as possible that have ties to District 27 come out and enjoy a good meal at the Legion on April 23rd.
Well, and it's a feel-good thing, I think, for anybody who gets involved with that, because you see that the community cares, the whole community. You were talking about the involvement of the churches, and it's certainly there. And the involvement of just community members is there caring about the kids.
Right. Correct.
We should be glad we live in
small town
this
America.
Big,
Yeah, really. We kind of represent, my biased opinion, but we kind of represent the best of what's good in America in these small town values because of the intimacy, excuse me, please, in a bigger community, just by virtue of the way it is, people don't get involved on a more intimate basis than we do here at the smaller population level.
It's more up close and personal here, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Right. Kent, would you like to close with a comment or statement, sir?
I just appreciate you having me on today. I wasn't aware of the show every Wednesday. Is that correct?
Yes,
Wednesday, 8:15 to 9 o'clock.
Well, you're busy doing your job.
I'm going to have to maybe tune in sometime and listen. But I've enjoyed staying here and visiting with you, and I think that I'm very blessed. My family loves Lincoln, and just as the two of you, and District 27, as you've mentioned over and over, excellent district, people who care from top to bottom, administrators to teachers. Very fortunate to have such great people working and educating our kids, and we're very proud of the things taking place in District 27. So thanks again for having me.
Well, we appreciate your time, sir, and we also appreciate your talent. It takes a lot of that. This is a big district, and you have a huge impact on a lot of youngsters. We always try to close the Viewpoint program with a comment or two that's hopefully germane to this conversation of the morning. This is a little longer one. I'm not sure who authored this. And it's a little poignant if you think about it. There are no college courses to build self-esteem, or high school or elementary schools. If you don't get those values at an early age, nurtured in your own home, you don't get them. And there's something to that. So thank you very much for Viewpoint.